Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. My name is Heather. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kiddos and we are going into our 11th year homeschooling this year. I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you are notified of all of my future videos. Today we are going to be talking about monthly homeschool planning. Now I know that I did a video a couple of weeks ago on big picture yearly homeschool planning, and the difference between me and some other homeschoolers is that I do not plan out our entire year in advance. I do purchase curriculum for the year. However, how our days and weeks and months go can definitely change. It really depends on what gets thrown at us throughout the year. So instead of starting with a full year's worth of plans that I have to move through, and if I miss a day, we are behind, I do it a little bit differently. I do buy my curriculum. I do have grids that show a daily rundown of what you should teach, but I don't use them. Instead, I make my own plans, and I do that sort of monthly and sort of weekly. So I'm going to be talking about monthly homeschool planning today, so stay tuned. So I use an Erin Condren teacher planner for my homeschool planning, and before the year begins, I do a big picture yearly overview. And I have that, let me see if I can find it. I have that here, and what I do is I write down the things that are most important for the month. If there are vacations or days off or birthdays or big events that are happening, I write all of that in this yearly plan, as well as our Brave Writer resources. I did a video about that. I will leave a link in the description box for you. So my first thing that I do when I'm doing my monthly homeschool planning is I go through and see what is on our calendar for the month. And the reason I do that is because I do not want to be planning too much in the month ahead. If I see that we have a vacation week and we are going to be away a lot, or there's a big birthday month, or Christmas, you have to take that into account when you're planning your month ahead. And if you plan too much in the month, then you will not finish it, and that can be discouraging, and it sort of snowballs, unfortunately. So what I will say first is that you have to look at your month and see what you have going on. Now, if you see that you are out of the house constantly and you don't really have time to do homeschool, you're going to obviously have to start saying no to some of those outside activities. We do have, well, in years past, we have had quite a bit outside of the house with my daughter participating in band, and then also when my kids were in tennis and swimming. So we had a lot of stuff going on outside of the house, and I really had to be efficient with my time when we were at home to get the work done that we needed to get done. So the first step in monthly homeschool planning is to look at your month ahead, see what appointments you have, see if there are vacations or holidays or other days that you won't be able to do homeschool, and adjust your expectations accordingly, because you don't want to plan so much that you don't finish it. You want to leave enough margin in your month so that you are able to feel successful at the end of the month. The next thing that I do is I grab my clipboard that has all of the books that we are using in our different curriculum for the entire year. And we use Sunlight, and it has book lists, and they are broken down by week. So I can look at it and say, what are the books that we're going to be using in the next 4 to 6 weeks? And I will pull those books and put them on my homeschool cart. I did a walkthrough of my homeschool cart that has most of our daily subjects on it, as well as what we're going to be using for the 4 to 6 weeks that are ahead of us. So I pull all of those resources so they are available to me easily instead of having to go into our homeschool space where I store all of our homeschool materials. We don't homeschool in our homeschool room. We homeschool in our dining room. I know it's so weird. I'm hoping eventually the kids will move into that homeschool space, but for now we are still upstairs and not in the homeschool room. But it is a great place to store all of our resources. So once I grab the books that we're going to be using for the next month or so, I will go through any instructor's guides or notes with the curriculum that I am using for the month ahead. And that just gives me some time to familiarize myself with the materials, make notes of any resources that I need to purchase. For example, lab, all of the science labs say typically had in your home, or you can find this in your home, and I can never find any of that stuff. So I make a list each month of supplies that we need to get, and then I go get them. Could you do it at the beginning of the year? Absolutely, if that's something that you want to do, and then have all of that sort of packed away and then pull out the resources you need for that month. That is certainly an idea too. I don't buy everything ahead of time because we don't always do every single project and that is called for in the curriculum, and that's part of my monthly homeschool planning. What am I going to be able to accomplish this month, and then getting the supplies that I need for the month ahead. Then once I have pulled all of the information and familiarized myself with the materials, I make a general monthly calendar spread where I have some notes of things that I am planning to do for the month, as well as any important dates for sports, music practices, kids' appointments, anytime we're out of the house. That all goes into my monthly calendar, and that is so that when I am doing my weekly homeschool planning, which is when I actually write out my lessons for the week, I am aware of what is going on. Monthly homeschool planning for me takes place during my planning day at the end of the month. Usually the fourth Thursday of the month is when I will do my planning day, and it is partially for homeschool planning, partially for goal planning, and partially for just getting my calendars set up for the month ahead. It helps keep me on track. And so that is when I do my monthly planning, and it coincides with the next day being the conferences that I have with my kids. We do not do conferences every month of the year, but I do check in with them most months to see if they have questions, if they're struggling with a particular subject, if they have a new interest that they want to explore, if they feel like they need new resources, or if they're looking for something specific. That is what I do on our conference day with the kids. So mainly monthly homeschool planning is kind of just figuring out what our month is going to look like and what I want to accomplish within that month. Now, I know that I've had some questions recently about what if there are no grids or teacher guides telling you what to do in the different days, and that's okay. It can be a little bit more challenging to figure that out, but what I would say is that you want to look at how many weeks you are planning to use that particular resource, and then either if there are lessons within that resource, you can divide up the amount of lessons based on how many weeks you have, so you know how many lessons you have to do each week. Or if it is a book you are reading to your kids, or your kid is reading themselves, look at how many chapters there are and how long you want to give them to finish that book. Do you want to give them 2 or 3 weeks? Is it a really long book? Do you want to give them an entire month to work on the book? Is it a super short book that they should be able to finish in a few days? That's going to be how you figure that out. It is harder when you are working with resources that don't have any lessons and you're just looking at pages and pages of work. So look at how many pages there are. Uh, that resource should have somewhere, wherever you purchase that resource, it should give you an idea of how long they expect you to teach with that particular resource. And if they don't, I would definitely reach out to the company that you purchased that from. If you are making your own, you have to have an idea of how long you want to be in that particular resource. And then once you know the time frame, is it for a full year, like a math curriculum? If you're doing Life of Fred, for instance, has lessons in it, but it doesn't have a schedule of when you're supposed to do the lessons. And I think, so Emma's algebra Life of Fred has about 105 lessons, I think, if I'm recalling. I'm looking at the book and I can't remember exactly. So if you have to do school 180 days and you have about 100 lessons, you're probably going to want to do it 2 to 3 days a week. Or is it something where it's math and you want to have your kid in it every single day, in which case you move through it faster and then you move on to the next book when you've finished it. So it really depends on how long you expect to use the resource or book or curriculum, how many lessons there are, and how many days or weeks you're planning on using that resource. And then that's kind of how you figure out how to lay it out. I hope that was helpful. So for example, again, Wordly Wise has 20 weeks of lessons, but we will use it over the full year. So we are going to be doing it 3 days a week. My kids are going to be doing a cursive handwriting book. If they did it every day, it would be finished in like 9 weeks probably. So they're going to do it a couple of times a week. I am doing an analogies book with Emma, and it has it's a very short book, but I want to continue it through the entire year, so we're going to use it once a week. It just depends on how long you want to use the resource, and then you just divide it up that way. That is really the bulk of monthly homeschool planning. It does not take a lot of time to get your calendar set up and know when you have certain activities and events or appointments, etc., on your calendar. The bulk of the work is really to familiarize yourself with the material so that when your kids are doing the different lessons, you are able to answer questions or easily move through the material because you already kind of have an understanding of what it is going to be. And that does tend to take a little bit of time for me, especially because we're literature-based homeschoolers. So I have a lot of books that I'm reading with the kids each year. So making sure that I know what is coming is the most important part for me. If you have questions about monthly homeschool planning, please leave them in the comments or send me an email. I will leave some resources for you in the description box to sort of help you figure things out. One resource, which I mentioned in my choosing curriculum video, is the Plan Your Year workbook by Pam Barnhill. This is something that she came out with several years ago. She used to have a class on her website. I'm not sure if she does anymore. I purchased the book from Amazon. It does have pages that you can sort of work through, but the information itself is really helpful, especially the information about how to do lesson planning. She has several different methods for lesson planning, especially if you're creating your own curriculum from scratch, and how to sort of map that out for the year. So I will leave a link for that in the description box. I think the book is maybe $20, so it's a little pricey, but I definitely feel like it's worth it. It has information that I go to year after year to sort of refresh my mind about how I want to plan out things. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys. Bye.